across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This
There you are. Hope you had a good weekend. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 top-quality hours of fast-moving news, views and topical debate. Get stuck in, get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000. There's lots to talk about today. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, June the 16th. Here's what's coming up. Of course, we need to talk about two-tier Keir's latest shocking U-turn, this time over the need for a public inquiry into the rape gang scandal. The Prime Minister and his cabinet robots, pretty much. Why were the Prime Minister and his cabinet robots pretty much the only people in the country who didn't seem to realise the seriousness of the worst sex crime scandal in British history? What did Baroness Casey's 190-page report reveal that we didn't already know? That Muslim men of Pakistani origin were systematically raping vulnerable young white girls in towns and cities all over the country. That there are estimated to be as many as 250,000 victims. That's 250,000 who deserve justice, the kind of closure that only a full national investigation can bring. Why didn't Starmer understand this? What's wrong with our leader? Does he have trouble empathising with his fellow human beings? 0344 499 1000. And while Keir drinks beer with his globalist chum Mark Carney at the Canadian G7 summit, Britain goes to hell in a handcart. Is the palpable social decline we see all around us down to tone-deaf Starmer's inability to comprehend what the people are asking, that they are on edge, they are sick of the crime the police don't bother to solve, sick of the dangerous cities where violence goes unpunished, sick of the thugs who don't pay their train fares, sick of the hooded dope-smoking yobs who have the run of the place, sick of mobile phones getting stolen by yobs, masked yobs on mopeds at the rate of literally 1 a minute in the capital. It's non-stop here. We are sick of it. People are fed up of it. And they are sick of the migrant crisis, the ongoing invasion of millions of foreigners whose reluctance to integrate is diluting British culture, possibly terminally. And our Labour government just cheers the asylum seekers along, as though 40,000 of them packed into more than 200 hotels all across the land is a good thing. Will, as Nigel Farage warns, the immigration riots of Ballymena spread into another summer of discontent, just like last year? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, local authorities are falling into the be kind line by actually prioritising the needs of migrants who broke into this country illegally over the needs and requirements of law-abiding British citizens. Can't get to see a GP in Cumbria? Pretend you're a migrant. They've got a special fast-track doctors scheme for asylum seekers. Nip down to Kent, where the local council picks up the tab for driving lessons for asylum seekers. And this just in, trampoline lessons. The Asylum Seekers Support Scheme has spent £6.6 billion in just 5 years on treats, outings, video games and gifts for our new arrivals from far away. Meanwhile, 1,500 more migrants crossed the channel in 4 days. And Starmer pathetically begs Macron to do a bit more about stopping the small boats, because Keir's smash the gangs strategy is a demonstrable disaster, and yet he sticks to it. Why? 0344 499 1000. In other news, I'll bring you the latest on the Iran-Israel war amid reports that missiles are raining down on Tehran as we speak. Do the leaders of the West owe Netanyahu a debt of gratitude for doing what none of them have got the guts to do? Take out Iran and hopefully destroy the Mad Mullah's tyrannical regime. He's doing it. None of us had the guts to. Starmer and Lammy still talking about de-escalation and negotiation. I think the time for that is probably past. 0344 499 1000. And finally, Meghan sacks yet more staff, apparently blaming her public relations team for the bad press she keeps getting, blaming her communications executives because she keeps having to suffer bad stories about her. Seemingly, she's unaware that that might just be her fault. And that ginger loser she's married to, all that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday night together. And for the first hour, I've got with me, I'm really pleased to say, Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Good evening. I just feel like a lot of our listeners today are thinking, how much more of this can we take? You know, we've got probably another 4 years of this absolute disaster of a government messing pretty much everything up. And what can we do about it? I think people are already at boiling point, don't you?
I do, and you've tweeted, we'll read it out in just a minute, you've tweeted something, Rupert Lowe's tweeted something. More and more people in prominent positions, politicians, observers like yourself, commentators, are starting to say exactly what you tweeted, that there's this feeling. I mean, you know, we're used to governments not being all that good, to
Yes.
being pretty inefficient. It's what happens with politicians, because none of them have got, or very few of them have got much experience of real life, and they're just not very good at dealing with reality. So we're used to governments being fairly incompetent. But Starmer and his gang have taken it on to a new level. So if we put up your tweet here. Where's Isabel's tweet, please? Yeah, how can... I can't quite see it here. I haven't got a copy of it, so I'll have to read that out later.
Basically, I was saying, how can the country bear another 4 years of this? You know, the crashing incompetence, the tanking economy, the refusal to stop the boats, the ministers who won't give basic answers to basic questions, the fracturing of communities, the filth piling up on our streets, the immigration judges who seem to be determined to turn Britain into a giant trash can. I was looking at a story today about a foreign criminal who's being allowed to stay in this country, I kid you not, because he's a drug addict.
Oh, no, you missed half the point. He's a drug addict, and if he gets sent back to Uganda, he may suffer mental health struggles because they might not help him with his opioid addiction. Whereas, thank God, here in Britain, he's broken the law 42 times, been to prison umpteen times. But thank God, we'll be able to help him through his mental health anguish. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, it's precisely why he should be deported, because he is a drug addict. You know, I don't know what it is about these immigration tribunal judges that seem to think that our country is a giant charity, with all of us forced to donate to a series of lost causes. We're not a charity, we're a country, and our first duty is to the people of this country, not an endless succession of people who come in and don't contribute, or worse, break the law, and are then allowed to stay, having made up a bunch of absolute nonsense. I mean, this particular guy, initially, one of his reasons for asking to stay was that he was gay and he'd be persecuted if he went back. When that failed, it changed to another argument.
And why can't we know his name? Why do these
Why?
immigration courts protect the identity of these people? Our justice system is supposed to be transparent. No one else gets this treatment. Why do we close down transparency when it comes to asylum seekers, but no one else? No one else gets this privilege.
I absolutely have no idea. But here's the thing, this is just one of the many absolutely disastrous things that are happening in our country every single day. And I feel like today just felt like a particular day of shame. You know, another day, another screeching U-turn from this government. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll come to that.
But we will. But I thought, I mean, you pointed this out this morning. And of course, we're going to talk about Keir's strange approach to the need for a rape gang inquiry. Suddenly changes his mind dramatically today. And I just don't understand. We'll talk about that in a minute. I don't understand why him and his robot cabinet were the last people in the country to realise this. It was quite clear. You know, he didn't need Baroness Casey's report to know about the seriousness of this. I mean, what is wrong with him? We'll talk about that in just a minute. But, yeah, let me just... I've got your tweet now. It's, how can our country... listen to this, folks. How can our country bear another 4 years of this? The crashing incompetence, the ignorance, the gaslighting, the U-turns, the ministers who can't give a basic answer to a basic question, the far-right slurs, the refusal to stop the boats, the tanking economy, the fracturing of communities, the filth piling up on our streets, the immigration judges who are turning the UK into a giant trash can. Latest example, the foreign criminal we were just talking about. We are a year in. Imagine this time next year and the one after and the one after that. And Rupert Lowe, he tweeted, well, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's very long, but he said, walk down any high street in England. There's a vape shop run by a foreign man who can barely speak English. There's a Turkish barber run by a foreign man who can barely speak English. There's an Asian grocery store run by a foreign man who can barely speak English. Character gone, community gone, independent British shops mostly wiped away. It just doesn't feel like England anymore. I'm not saying I've ever tried to do this, but I know people who have. You try and get a haircut in one of these Turkish barbers. They barely know how to pick the scissors up. So you can, God knows what it is they're actually doing, but it's not cutting hair. Why are there sort of country villages with a population of about 500 that have 5 Turkish barbers? Nothing is being done about this, and this is the problem. Keir Starmer, his lack of empathy, I think, his inability to listen, his inability to look around and see what's happening to this country must be contributing in a major way to this palpable sense of serious decline. It must be something to do with this current leader we've got and his hopeless cabinet.
Well, he just doesn't seem to get it. You know, he doesn't seem to connect with ordinary people or really with any people. I mean, I don't know who he does connect with, but rarely have I known a prime minister so unable to look and sound normal, to look and sound as if he understands why it is that so many voters feel so frustrated, feel so betrayed, feel so let down. He just doesn't seem to get that. He seems to exist in a kind of bubble of, you know, hashtag be kind politics, the condemnation and smearing of anyone to the right of where he is, which is frankly most of the population, and an endless travel circuit of globe trotting. And that's not to mention, I should have put in my tweet actually, the sellout of this country, you know, the extraordinary betrayal, which was the giving away of the Chagos Islands, you know, which is so symbolic, I think, of his attitude to our country and our proud history and our place in the world. And it is just genuinely shocking what he's presided over in such a short period of time, and the absolute mediocrity of his cabinet. Now, there are a few honourable exceptions. In fact, Yvette Cooper today, I know you don't like her, you call her Calamity Cooper, but she is an experienced politician. I think she's been Home Secretary before, actually, in the Labour years. So she, in a government of total lightweights, I would say that Yvette Cooper is probably among the least worst. But the examples every day, including in interviews on this station, of ministerial muppetry and mediocrity that takes some absolute beating.
It really does. And, he's in Canada for the G7 summit. I suppose he has to be there. But does he have to post pictures of him amid that striking Rocky Mountain scenery, go, not a bad spot, and then hit him and Mark Carney drinking beer at the hockey game, all having a great idea. Now, I do realise that our dear leader, has to go to these events, the G7 summit. But he would be far better off right now being in Ballymena to understand what's going on. To maybe not join in, as he basically has done so far, with this chorus of inadequate nonsense, as the First Minister of Northern Ireland, Michelle O'Neill, and the local police chief say, this is just racism, that's all it is. It's just mindless violence. So here we are again. It's Southport all over again. Don't listen to what these protesters are protesting about. In fact, pretend they're not actually protesting about anything. Pretend that they're just mindless thugs who want to destroy things, who want to be violent. Well, that isn't good enough, because there is a reason for what's happening in Ballymena, just as there was a reason for what happened in Southport last year and across towns and cities all over the country. It was incredible, rising levels of intense of intense frustration with the migrant crisis. They are furious with the migrant crisis. So Ballymena, 2 Romanian kids, 14-year-old kids, are in court charged with the oral rape of a local girl. We know about Southport. That was when the crowd thought it was a migrant who may have committed those appalling crimes in the dance hall. And of course the Prime Minister and the authorities did nothing to dispel that. They allowed the misinformation to spread. In fact, they weren't that wrong. I mean, it wasn't a migrant, it was the son of a migrant. So you can say the migrant crisis played a part in what happened in Southport. So the crowd last year, fed up to hell with the effects of the migrant crisis, seeing our country, as Rupert Lowe said, being changed, different. It's not what it used to be. Everything seems to be changing, and the foreigners who've come to invade our society, have been let in, the asylum seekers all over the country, they seem to be bringing about a kind of cultural dilution. Now, all of which a proper Prime Minister and his cabinet should be listening to and trying to do something about. What does this Prime Minister and what does his cabinet do? They go, far-right thugs, mindless, there's no reason for this. Well, if you keep not addressing the reason for this rising tide of social unrest, then it is a recipe for guaranteed disaster. And when Nigel Farage says he fears this summer there will be riots all across the country again, I think he's probably right. I take no relish in that. But when we have a government and a Prime Minister who literally refuses to listen to what people are protesting about and pretends it's that there's these weird automaton right-wing thugs who just want to break things and set fire to things for no apparent reason, well, that is going to lead to the kind of unrest that probably we haven't seen so far. It's really bad.
I mean, the truth is that we're a very accepting and tolerant society. And if life was definitely getting better for people, and if the massive influx of incomers was actually contributing to a booming economy, to everything, to the quality of life being higher, then I don't think the British people would have a problem with it. But the thing is, if you're going to import millions of people, you also have to build the roads and the schools and the hospitals and all the other infrastructure to accommodate them. And we've done the worst possible thing. We've imported all these people. We're unable to pick and choose, it seems, between importing high-skilled and zero skills whatsoever. And we haven't catered for them in a way that doesn't disadvantage the existing population. So it's hardly surprising the whole place is a tinderbox.
Well, we're going to talk about in a little while how, at least in one area, in Cumbria, and this is what gets people really fed up. You know, people can't get to see GPs, they can't get to see their doctors. It's a real national scourge. And yet in Cumbria, and I'm sure it's not the only county where this is happening, or area, they've got a special priority system for asylum seekers to get to see their doctors. So they get to see GPs very fast. The local British citizens, not so fast. That, again, is a recipe for disaster. People are liable to get very fed up about that, and you can understand why. Once again, what is Keir Starmer doing about this? Old two-tier Keir. I don't even think he's noticing it's happening, and that is a massive problem. When we come back, Isabel, we're going to talk about this extraordinary rape gang inquiry U-turn that the Prime Minister has suddenly staged over the last couple of days. All of his acolytes who back in January were falling with him and said, if you're calling for a rape gang inquiry, you're climbing on board the far-right bandwagon. I mean, what a thing to say. You want some justice, maybe, for the 250,000 poor, vulnerable, young white girl victims. 250,000 who were raped, abused, fed drugs, treated like animals, tortured. You want justice for that? And the Prime Minister tells you, you want justice for that? You must be far right. You're climbing on a far-right bandwagon. All of his politicians said, oh, the Prime Minister's right. Yeah, we don't need a national inquiry. No, we don't. No. Maybe a few local inquiries. Oh, no, let's not even have them. We don't need them. Suddenly, they're all going, yes, the Prime Minister's absolutely right. We must have a national inquiry. What are these people? They're like sort of seals at the zoo that you throw fish to, only they're not quite as intelligent as that. We'll talk about Keir and his rape gang inquiry U-turn after this break.
The idea that she was going to come back and be, you know what, I'll be Starmer's whipping boy on this.
Yeah.
I'll be the woman that says we don't need an inquiry. And when it was so blindingly obvious that we did need an inquiry, just from the facts that were publicly available at the time. So this idea that she's suddenly uncovered some new mystery about the fact that hundreds of Pakistani origin men raped, drugged, abused thousands of British girls, that's not new information.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, well, I'll just play you this and then we'll have a chat. Check this out.
Calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right, then that affects politics.
No, the reason we're not doing another national inquiry is because there's already been a national inquiry.
Do you want an inquiry or not?
No, Paul, I'm trying to answer your question, and the answer is no. We don't think another inquiry, after all the many inquiries that we've put victims through, is the way to tackle this.
There has been a huge amount of misinformation this week. Sadly, party political misinformation. It is just wrong.
Trevor, what is the most important thing?
Of course, it's the position of the victims. I understand that.
It is the victims, and it's not people's hurt feelings about how they've been spoken.
However, I think that what I will not let happen is for the far right to use the exploitation of vulnerable girls in this country and what happened in Cologne for their own ends when they've done absolutely nothing about sexual violence and the culture of sexual assault.
I don't know whether you saw the documentary on Channel 4 about rape gangs over this.
We want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Yeah. Okay.
There was a real issue.
Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we?
Okay, Lucy. Yeah. The council.
Well, those people, Isabel, incredibly, are running the country. So most of those statements that you saw then were straight after January, when Keir Starmer made that extraordinary statement that if you want justice for these 250,000 victims of the rape gang scandal, then you're climbing on board some sort of far-right bandwagon. The rest of his cabinet fall into line. Very strident. No, we don't. You want to know whether we need a rape gang inquiry? No, we don't. And I'll tell you why. That's Lisa Nandy, you know, and so on and so forth. Lucy Powell, the leader of the House, calling it a dog whistle issue. These people are not fit to govern. Why can't they understand, or why couldn't they understand back then in January that the calls for a national inquiry were genuine? I usually hate public inquiries. They're a waste of money, they don't achieve much, and they go on for years and they cost a fortune. But there is, every now and again, a kind of important issue where we just need one. And I'm afraid that this was a clear example. Everyone in the country knew we needed a rape gang public inquiry, apart from Keir Starmer and the performing seals from his cabinet who just fell into line and did what they're told. What kind of fish do you think they like when we next see them, so we can throw them and see if they, you know, while they go, you know, I mean, it's pathetic, isn't it? It is beyond pathetic, these people.
I strongly suspect that several of those people in the clip we just played there actually did know that we needed a public inquiry, but they didn't have the guts to resign over it, and instead they just chose to toe the party line, and their boss effectively just doesn't have the political antennae, as we were talking about in the last segment. Now all of those that went out and towed the line like that and parroted off all the reasons why we don't need a public inquiry, and everybody was calling for one must be an idiot and a far right jumping on bandwagon dog whistler. All of those will be pretty fed up, if I can put it politely, with the way Downing Street has handled this, and it may well contribute to Keir Starmer not staying the distance to the next election in number 10. I mean, I watched some of the statement today from Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, and next to her was Jess Phillips. And, you know, I've known Jess for a long time. She has worked very hard over the years for victims of sexual violence. And I have to say, she looked pretty broken today. She really did.
Yeah, she's got what she probably wanted all the way along. And I understand that you have to do what the Prime Minister says. You know, the Cabinet has to be as one and all that. But I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but I think every single one of those people, most of them women, actually, they were all women, weren't they, who should have a particular interest in getting justice for these poor girls, the victims. Every single one of them should have pushed back up against Starmer and said, this is a nightmare. We should not be arguing against a public inquiry into the rape gang scandal, and yet we did, unless we forget, Isabel, apart from that outrageous statement where he labelled, as he's wont to do, anyone who wanted a public inquiry into the rape gang scandal as somebody is climbing onto the far-right bandwagon. It's a pattern, isn't it? Just as he said about the rioters in Southport, they're far-right thugs. Anybody says anything he doesn't like, anytime he is... he believes that someone is maybe right of centre in their politics. Anybody that does anything he doesn't like, he dismisses them as far right. At the very least, hopefully, he will now grow out of this. But this is the guy also that whipped. He basically got all of those Labour MPs, that obscene number of Labour MPs, 410 or whatever it is, to vote against a public inquiry in January. The Tories, to their credit, said we must have a public inquiry into this. Keir Starmer organised it, so all of his MPs voted against it. So to hell with him, to hell with them.
I mean, I'd like to think that he drops this phrase far right, but nothing about his track record suggests any ability to learn that simply saying the same phrases again and again doesn't make things different. I mean, this is, after all, a man who keeps on talking about smashing the vile, people smuggling gangs having smashed
evil people. So, they're always evil, always evil.
It's often vile, and it's always the same collection of words, isn't it? And I don't think he is actually going to learn not to smear voters with that label. And that will again cost Labour huge numbers of votes at the next test. It already has cost them an awful lot, I think. Personally, I think Jess Phillips should have resigned when the national inquiry, when the Prime Minister refused to hold one many months ago. I think she'd have looked very principled. And I think she'd have, the outcome will still be the same. We'd still get this national inquiry, and then she could have come back with her head held high.
Absolutely. It was a low point for her. It was a shame. You're right, because she has done a lot of good work on women's safety, and I think she is very committed to that cause. But in the way that these politicians tend to do, she let herself down by just going along with what the boss said, and she should have done more than that. So let me ask the audience, if, like me and Isabel as well, obviously, if you like us thought that there was a need for a public inquiry into the rape gang scandal, what did you think of the fact that the Prime Minister believes you to be far right, some kind of far right fanatic, that caring for those 250 victims, that wanting justice for those 250,000 victims was somehow or other far right? You're some kind of Nazi for thinking that. What did you think of the Prime Minister labelling you far right because you wanted a public inquiry? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, Isabel, we'll talk about his other massive headache. That is, of course, the ongoing catastrophe of the migrant crisis. 1,500, more than 1,500 migrants came across in 4 days towards the end of last week. So we will talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still talking to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, before we get to the migrant crisis, it's been a real mess the last few days. The invasion really sort of stepping up over the course of the end of last week. 1,500 in more than 4 days, 909 on one particular day alone. I was just thinking about the rape gang inquiry. Now, Baroness Casey has obviously done good work. It's a 190-page report. But I'll flick through it. I can't pretend to have read it all. It only came out a couple of hours ago. But it's not telling us anything we didn't know. It's saying dramatic things like the rape gangs were predominantly Muslim men of Pakistani origin. Oh, really? There's a turn up for the books, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't tell us anything that we didn't really know. Any citizen of this country would have known most of what she's turned up. Again, did Keir Starmer somehow think that Baroness Casey's report will get him off the hook and he'd be able to say, there you go, this proves that we don't need a rape gang public inquiry? Because if so, he was sorely disappointed.
I think that's exactly what he thought. And, you know, in principle, I think it was a pretty good idea in a situation like this, not that there's ever been anything quite like this, to do a really quick review to see if there is a case for a wider investigation. But the thing is that by the time Louise Casey looked at this, we already had masses of evidence about how many failings there had been, about the systematic institutional incompetence and willful blind eye that was turned. And, you know, the government tried to say, well, let's just have lots of local inquiries. But that's sort of the whole point, isn't it? That there were lots of little piecemeal investigations into what happened, and no one ever joined the whole thing up. And that is really what was needed to give people the bigger picture. So the Prime Minister, I've seen politicians do this many times before. They've strung it out, you know, they've made a bad decision and they've kept on doubling down for a long period, and then eventually they've had to cave, and the damage done is off the dial.
Yeah.
So not only to them politically, but of course, again, to the victims.
Yeah, and they've sort of brought in top-level cops to launch a massive search for any more perpetrators, any more rapists, any more rape gangs, which is good, because make no mistake, this scourge is still going on. It is happening as we speak. So that's good. I just hope they put just as much effort into catching, arresting, charging and prosecuting all the luminaries who turned their backs. The police chiefs, the social workers, the teachers, the politicians who these poor girls said were getting raped, and who were ignored because these people did not want to be branded Islamophobic or racist. They need to be brought to justice as well. Otherwise, this inquiry won't be worth a light. So let's get the people who turned a blind eye to the worst sexual crime scandal in the history of this country. Let's get them. Let's get the police chief who didn't prosecute. Maybe get the Director of Public Prosecutions, who from 2008 until 2013 presided over a complete failure to arrest or convict any of the rape gang culprits. Oh, that was Mr. Keir Starmer. Ooh, how about that? Yeah, let's arrest him, eh? Right, well, let's move on and let's talk about what happened over the past few days. 1,500, more than 1,500 migrants crossed the Channel in 4 days. Despite what we keep hearing, the gendarmes are clearly still refusing to get their feet wet. They're still saying too dangerous to get into the sea, so they're just letting the migrants walk past them, wade into the sea, get into the small boats and come across. The smash the gangs strategy achieving absolutely nothing. They have not stopped They have not smashed a single gang since the formation of the Border Security Command 11 months ago. It is a waste of space and time. What is the Prime Minister really going to do about this? There we go. They're paddling. It may well pan back now, and you'll see the French cops standing there for some reason with riot shields on the beach, watching this happen. And they started throwing tear gas bombs at them this weekend. I actually don't want to see that. I don't want you to bomb these poor people with tear gas bombs. I want you to stop them getting in the bloody boats in the first place. Anyway, what is Two-Tier here doing about this? He's in Canada, and apparently we're told he's going... There they are, all watching. Those are the gendarmes, lay cops, watching as our friends depart for a new life in Britain. He's going to sidle up to Macron, apparently, and say, "Hey, Emmanuel, could you do a little bit more to stop the boats, do you think? What with, us giving you £800 million over the years and you doing nothing. Do you think you could actually do something for this money?" That's his new strategy, to take Emmanuel Macron aside at the G7 and say, "Oh, go on, step it up a bit on the beaches, eh, Eman?" It's pathetic, isn't it?
I mean, I'm afraid I think it's got to the point where the only way ahead is hardball with the French. I mean, first of all, we've got to not give them another franc these days, another euro. They have already had vast sums of our money for doing absolutely diddly squat. And it's a definition of madness to keep doing the same and expect a different outcome. French are laughing all the way to the bank. I get it. It makes every sense to them to just wave these people across the channel so they're no longer a French problem. I can totally see why that's logical from their side. But you can't do that and take our money. That doesn't stack up at all. So we've got to find leverage against the French. We've got to find where are the pinch points? What is really going to hurt them? Because the time for this very, very delicate, nicey diplomacy is long past. Each and every one of those migrants getting in those boats is going to cost the British taxpayer tens of thousands of pounds in the next year. And, like you, Kev, I don't want to see them sprayed with anything. I don't think many of them are fleeing war and terror, but they're quite reasonably pursuing a better life in the UK. And I don't blame them for that, but we've got to stop them coming. And the French are not playing their part. Yeah, just to run through it. Thursday, 400 came across. Friday, 52, relatively light day. Saturday, a bumper, 919. Sunday, no, I've got this slightly wrong. Sunday was 134, Saturday 919, Friday 52, Thursday 400. So they're just piling across. Now, you know what I was saying earlier about we're kind of screaming at the Prime Minister and going, look, we have a problem with the migrant crisis. These riots are happening because of the migrant crisis. Could you please do something about it? And he doesn't like that reason. So he just pretends we're not even saying it. Do you remember when he was asked after the Southport riots, is there a problem with two-tier policing, two-tier justice, which there clearly was? He literally almost sulkily broke away from the interview and said, there's no problem with that, just walked off. So when he doesn't like the reason for anything, he pretends it's not happening. So we are screaming at this guy to say, listen, Keir, listen, Miss Calamity Cooper, your strategy of smashing the gangs, smashing the evil people smuggling gangs, is not only not working, it's not working to a catastrophic level. It is totally and utterly ineffective. After 11 months, please, can you come up with something else? But what's he doing?
Smash the gang, gotta smash the gang, smash the evil people, smuggling gang. He's just like a parrot. He's like one of those Christmas dolls you give your little girl, you know, pull his string, and he says, smash the gangs. You're a doll-like Prime Minister for Christmas. Smash the gang, smash the gang. It's pathetic. Again, I keep saying it's pathetic, but it really, really is. He's got to change tack. Otherwise, this is going to get worse and worse and worse, and yet he won't.
Why is it that no politician, apart from Robert Jenrick, no elected politician has ever resigned over these catastrophic failings? Robert Jenrick, now Shadow Justice, he resigned on a point of principle when the Tories were in government. Got to give him some credit for that. But no one else has ever done that, and nor have any of the people who are highly paid behind the scenes, to the best of our knowledge, nor have any of those ever quit because they've achieved absolutely nothing. I want to hear from the head of this National Border Command, or whatever it is called, what exactly are they doing with our taxpayers' money? What is being achieved? I don't just want to hear, you know, platitudes trotted out at a press conference. We need to see detail. What exactly are they doing? If it's all behind the scenes, just share with us, what are you achieving? Because from where we're sitting, the answer to that is nothing whatsoever. The weather this week looks absolutely fantastic. I would expect a whole week's worth of bumper arrivals over the next few days.
As the song goes, jolly good small boating weather. They will all be coming over this week, guaranteed. But again, it's that they will not change this strategy. Now, the leader of the Border Security Command is called Martin Hewitt. He's a former cop. He gets £200,000 a year. On day one of landing the job, back in about October, it took them about 5 months to find anybody who would do the job. He said, well, you're not going to solve the migrant crisis by smashing the gangs. That won't work. So that was his opening statement. Again, Keir Starmer acted like he didn't say that and just carried on. So in the middle of last year, we gave that lot, Martin and his gang, £175 million worth of high-tech surveillance equipment to find the gangs and smash them. Surveillance, we'll find them and we'll smash them and ruin their evil trade. Well, that didn't work. So just last week, old Rachel from Accounts, in her spending review, gave them another £280 million worth of surveillance equipment. So we've given this lot, you know, upwards of 300 million quid, getting on for £400 million, maybe more than that even, in the last year or so. And they've caught the sum total of no gangs whatsoever. They need a different approach, but they won't apparently even think about adopting one. It's ridiculous.
You know, their hand is going to be forced. I can't help thinking their hand is going to be forced. I mean, on the one hand, I think nothing's going to change between now and when we get a new government. On the other, I think this is just totally unsustainable. And not only are they not smashing the gangs are evolving. I mean, there was a story in the last few days that some of these migrants are now beginning to arrive by yacht. I mean,
luxury yacht, that's right.
This is next level, isn't it? You know, I suppose the assumption being that you arrive in a yacht, then you're probably less likely to be arrested on arrival because it looks as if you're part of some, you know, luxury trip. Yeah. On the other hand, if you're not arrested and detained on arrival, you're not getting any free stuff. So maybe it makes sense to just be going along with the crowd.
It's just absurd. It really is. Let's go to break, and when we come back, we'll talk about one of the aspects of the migrant crisis that we were discussing earlier, the prioritising of the wants and the needs and the desires of these foreigners, asylum seekers who break into our country illegally, over the wants and the needs and the desires of British citizens, law-abiding British citizens who live here. We'll talk about that after this break.
the idea that she was going to come back and be, you know what, I'll be Starmer's whipping boy on this.
Yeah.
I'll be the woman that says we don't need an inquiry. And when it was so blindingly obvious that we did need an inquiry, just from the facts that were publicly available at the time. So this idea that she's suddenly uncovered some new mystery about the fact that hundreds of Pakistani origin men raped, drugged, abused thousands of British girls, that's not new information.
These perverse scientists are working on developing nuclear weapons to destroy the Jewish state and, for that matter, the rest of the world, because Iran, that have intercontinental ballistic missiles, plus nuclear warheads. Right now, enough uranium for 10 nuclear warheads is a menace not only for Israel, but for the whole world. And I think Israel's doing the very thankless job of fighting Iran on this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Still talking to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, all over the country, you know, I personally know this, it's hard to get an appointment with your GP. Very, very hard. In many areas, pretty much damn well impossible. But if you live in Cumbria, in the Barrow area, there is a way you can get to see your GP. Be an asylum seeker, because up there they are advertising free health clinics for people seeking asylum in Barrow. It says here, Cumbria Health are providing weekly primary care health clinics for people seeking asylum in Barrow. These clinics will be made up of pre-bookable and drop-in appointments held on the 3rd floor of Furness Multicultural Community Forum in Cook Studios, and then it gives the address. These start on the 13th of June, so that was a few days ago, Saturday or Friday was it. Within these clinics, we can register people with a GP surgery, perform new patient health checks and deal with any new health issues that the patient may have. Well, that's very nice for the asylum seekers, but that is a much, much, much better and more efficient quick service than British citizens are getting all over the country, prioritising asylum seekers over British citizens, law-abiding British citizens, bearing in mind that most asylum seekers broke into this country illegally. What's going on?
I mean, this is truly shocking. So this notice was served, this leaflet, if you like, was shared with Talk by local residents who are, you know, shocked and rightly pretty indignant that new arrivals who broke into this country, they've arrived illegally, are being fast-tracked through the NHS. As you say, you know, the idea of being able to get an easy appointment, you put it with your GP. I mean, you know, it's not really such thing anymore for most people as a family GP. It's just anyone who you're lucky enough to be able to see at some point. If you queue for absolutely ages, either in person or you ring up at 8 in the morning, you have to ring absolutely on the dot, and then you're told you're, you know, number 19 in the queue or something. You may or may not get an appointment. But not if you're an asylum seeker. You can just rock up and then you'll be assessed, and you know, they will have a look at any of your health problems and off you go, happy as Larry. It is, you know, the NHS doesn't have these resources at the moment for the population of the UK that has paid into the system, whether it's through their taxes or through other, you know, in the sense they've contributed to society, and yet they are not able reliably to see a GP when they need it. And this is the kind of thing. This is a kind of thing that is really fueling resentment in our communities. And when community cohesion fractures, it is because it is seen that incomers are getting special treatment, and they demonstrably are.
Yeah, there's a thing called the Asylum Seekers Support Scheme. In the past, this is our money, in the past 5 years, the Asylum Seeker Support Scheme which is funded by British taxpayers, has handed out £6.6 billion worth of freebies, trips to the zoo, tennis lessons, driving lessons, trips out, even a visit to Keir Starmer's beloved Arsenal football stadium. £6.6 billion, basically for treats to give to asylum seekers, because they've got nothing to do really in the hotels that we put them up in for free. At the cost of £4.7 billion a year. The insanity of this is off the scale. We've just learned that we revealed earlier in the year, this show, a couple of months ago, that Kent County Council, which has just gone reform, I wonder why, had paid £20,000, £24,000 in a year to pay for asylum seekers' driving lessons and driving tests. We've just learned today that one of the other things, because Zia Yousaf's Reform UK's Doge team have gone in to have a look at how the council's spending their money, they were spending money on trampoline lessons for asylum seekers. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is the absolute tip of the iceberg. I think there is a potential for what comes out of the deep dive into the spending of these councils that Reform runs. I think it has the potential to be as big as the expenses scandal. I think you're right, Isabel. It's absolutely massive. We're going to keep on it. Good to talk to you. Always a pleasure. That's Isabel Oakeshott Talks, international editor. We will talk to a rape victim next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is...
Welcome back. Do you want to know what the worst thing, or one of the worst things about the rape gang scandal? You know what one of the worst things is? It's this, that so many of these girls, thousands and thousands and thousands of them, as I say, shamefully, there could be as many as 250,000 victims of these rape gangs, usually Pakistani men of Muslim or Muslim men of Pakistani origin, operating all over the country, towns and cities all over the country. Now the victims, you can call them survivors, But in what way have they survived? Their lives continue to be ruined. So many of them unable to form romantic relationships. The chance of, getting married, having children, enjoying life's highway, removed from them. Their lives destroyed in every single normal way. That's what's so bad about it. So my next guest, I'm really pleased to tell you, is a rape gang survivor. She survived the most horrendous ordeal at the hands of a rape gang over a number of years in her hometown of Barrow in Cumbria. But I'm very pleased to tell you that this is a very brave young lady who has rebuilt her life and is determined not to be ruined by what happened to her. And for that, we salute her. She has just had another baby, so we were going to get her on Friday, but she was too busy with her newborn child. Well, she's taken a very brief break from maternal duties today, and I'm very, very pleased to welcome back to the show the remarkable Ellie Reynolds. Hi, Ellie.
Hi, are you all right?
I'm all right. How's your baby?
She's good.
Yeah. So remind me, is this your second or... Third, my God. But, as I said, you're a very strong young lady and you were determined not to be ruined by what happened to you. I'm going to make you sort of tell us a bit about that in just a little while, I'm afraid, but you know the drill. But so many of the young girls like you, who were the victims of these awful gangs. I mean, I spoke to one a couple of weeks ago when I spoke to you. Her name was Elizabeth, and I said, boyfriend, husband, she goes, no, I'll never be able to think about anything like that. And she's about 22 years old, 23 years old. She's had her life ruined. Now, you, to your credit, you were determined not to let that happen to you. But that's the sadness of it, isn't it? That so many young lives, not just destroyed by the ordeal of being raped systematic by these awful gangs, but the future. They've had the future taken away from them. Can't find a husband, can't find a boyfriend, can't imagine even having a romantic relationship, sexual relationships, all gone. Do you see what I'm saying? It really is a tragedy, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm very lucky in the sense of my partner being really understanding, and the first thing that you find yourself doing when you go and finally be able to rekindle any sort of romantic relationship is that I put something straight on the line and said, I have been through this and this is the way I am because of it. You constantly feel like you have to explain yourself for the way that you are, and you were never meant to be that way, which is a horrible thing. Yeah, you got changed by this terrible ordeal that happened to you. So if you could just quickly remind the audience, because you've told us this before, what happened to you over how long a period. If I remember rightly, Ellie, you were lured into this by a female associate of the rape gang. Tell us what happened. No, I was in a relationship with somebody, and a young, silly school relationship, and his family member, his cousin, was in a relationship with what turned out to be my main abuser. So that's how I got involved. I then went through an ordeal of 5 years of child sexual exploitation, human trafficking, modern day slavery. I was drugged up in flats. It was a bloody awful time. 5 years that I'll never ever get back. And like you've said yourself, it's not just 5 years then, it's the rest of your life. I went through absolute hell. Yeah, and we had your dad on as well. So the point being that you come from a loving family, and this was going on under their very noses. These grooming gangs, they're rape gangs, but their grooming technique is they isolate you from your own loved ones, don't they? So that you're suffering this on an almost daily basis. You're going missing for days on end, but you're too terrified to tell your dad, your loved ones, what's going on. That's how it goes, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was very lucky to have the upbringing that I had. As you can see, I had horses from a very young age. I've had a great family. I have supportive parents. I grew up with 3 sisters. I had absolutely everything in life. And, you know, when you look back on it, it is absolutely gut-wrenching the way that the trauma turns you, because like you said, it does turn you away from everybody that you love, and you end up taking your trauma out on everybody that you love because they're the closest people to you. So I ended up really disassociated and angry and mean and just completely not myself. And it is a shame because my family life was great. There was not a problem. Luckily, like I said, I did have understanding parents and supportive family members, and they understood when they knew what was going on, why I was the way I was. But I also understand that some people aren't as fortunate to have what I had.
Yeah, indeed. And just tell us again how you finally got out of this kind of circle of hell.
I was 17, and I think one day it was just, you end up becoming numb to the whole situation. At one point I'd fight back, and then it gets to the point where you know that fighting back, it does more damage, it causes more consequences. And in the end I ended up thinking one of my main abusers, he had a very young child. And I think it was just something in me that thought, what if I'm not the only person here right now? What if I'm not the only one that's going through it? So I knocked on his girlfriend's door, and I said, I think we need to talk, and I think you need to know what he's really like. By the looks of it, she knew what he was like, which also again was gut-wrenching. But yeah, I think at that point I started thinking, surely this isn't just me. This is wider and a lot bigger, and I didn't want to feel responsible for anybody else going through what I was.
Yes, so you did it for others, and respect you for that, of course. And how young were you when this all started, Ellie? Remind me.
I was 13.
So you were the victim of paedophile rape?
Yeah, absolutely. I spent many years questioning, like, why me, and you know, what makes you do that sort of stuff. And you get to a point where you just know at the end of the day it's in your blood, and you're the predator, not me. You really have to look at it and think, at 13, that's a child. That's, you know, that's a really young child. I didn't even look the same as what I do now. When I look back at photos of myself from 13 years old, I think you really are monsters to be able to do that to a kid. And that seems to be the only power that they have in life, and I pity them for that.
Well, that's very kind of you.
Yeah.
I don't pity them, but you're an amazing person, Ellie. Let's talk about the effect it had on you. I mean, you went to the authorities, and they basically treated you like a troublemaker, didn't they?
I use the word authorities very loosely. They're meant to be people that protect you. Absolutely not. So yes, I did go to the police. Within 24 hours, I was criminalised. There's also a thing called subject access request, which I recommend anybody to do. You get an SAR from authorities or people of power, and it's every document that they've ever written about you. It turns out that these authorities, so the police, children's services, my local school that I was going to, they all had bits of information that were crucial at that point. They were saying, you know, we've arrived at the house that Ellie was trafficked to. It doesn't look like she'd be going there off her own back. We categorise Ellie as risk number 2 for CSE. My school had said Ellie's shown us videos of men with weapons. We failed to report it for unknown reasons. Every single one of them, if they'd have worked together and done the job as people of power, could have hammered down on it a lot quicker. So back to the police, I think the police have a lovely habit of taking the easier option, which is, oh, she's just a troublesome kid, leave her alone, or, you know, she's had a bad childhood, or anything that they can do to sweep under the carpet. There's actually predators going around our streets and taking our children.
Did they sort of try and turn the tables on you and say it was your fault, the cops? Yeah, they did. It was a lot of questions.
Yeah, they did. It was that I was a menace, basically. I had a lot going on, and I wouldn't talk to them about it, so they didn't know what was going on, so they couldn't help me. I also had that I was doing it to myself because I was hanging around with older guys. The list is endless and, quite frankly, disgusting.
So, when you read these stories, when you hear and you read and you see on the telly and all that, that the nature of this, the real nature of this grooming gang scandal is this. Obviously, it's dreadful that it happened to all these poor girls, including you. They think as many as 250,000. But the real problem was that when girls like you went to the police or their teachers or social workers or local politicians and said, this is going on, loads of girls are being raped by these gangs, all of those people, the authorities, as I put it, turned their backs and didn't want to know. You recognise that because it happened to you.
Absolutely. I think they haven't got an ounce of humanity between them. If somebody's coming to you and saying, I have been through this or I'm going through this, from my own experience, the last thing that they are is understanding or serious. They don't give a damn, really. It's quick, shut her up before it gets out. We were told for years, you know, your case it's going somewhere, they're going to get done for it, keep quiet about it, you know, we're going to fight it. And then all of a sudden it was, no, I can't be bothered.
Did they get them in the end, your tormentors, the guys who treated you so appallingly?
So one of my abusers has been jailed for a total of 54 years.
Right.
Not for myself. He was jailed for other victims.
Right.
My case is currently they're trying to inquire about it 7 years later.
Well, into how they didn't respond properly when you went to them.
Into how they failed and passed blame, yeah.
Well, listen, that brings us to, you know, Keir Starmer, this government. What did you think? We're going to talk about, obviously, this sort of U-turn that's happened in the last couple of days in just a second. What did you think back in January when Keir Starmer and his gang, the cabinet gang, were all saying, no need for an inquiry, no need for a national inquiry. And then they said we might have some local inquiries. And then Jess Phillips said we don't even need them. We don't need inquiries into this. What did you think when Keir Starmer suggested that anyone who felt that people like you, Ellie, and all the other girls who were victims of this rape gang scandal, what did you think when he said that all of us who thought there should be a rape gang public inquiry were far right, that we were climbing onto some sort of far right bandwagon? What did you think about that?
I think the easiest thing for them to do is to accuse you of being far right, racist, joining a bandwagon, because quite frankly, they are very under pressure right now. I do not believe for 1 second that there should be politics involved. When there's kids involved that are being tortured and gang raped, put the kids first. I don't believe that we're far right whatsoever. I do not believe for a second that we're racist, because it doesn't matter whether your skin colour is different, your religion's different. If you have a sexual interest in children, you are a predator, no matter what colour you are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, so now the Prime Minister has suddenly had this dramatic change of heart, U-turn. There will be a full national inquiry. This is on the back of Baroness Casey's report, which is 190 pages. I've just tried to lift it up in the office. It's very heavy. I can't pretend to have properly read it. But basically, it's just saying, as far as I can work out, it's saying what we always knew. It's got like kind of not particularly surprising statements, like predominantly these gangs were made up of Muslim men of Pakistani origin. Well, we knew that. She's calling for thorough investigation, find more perpetrators, because we know this scourge is still going on. horror of horrors, but it is still happening around the country. So suddenly he's saying there must be an inquiry. And he said, I've read Baroness Casey's report. Why do you think, Ellie, that the Prime Minister couldn't work out what all of us knew, well, we've all known for years? I mean, obviously, you're a special case, but people like me, that millions of people around the country knew for years we needed a public inquiry on this terrible issue. This is the worst sexual scandal in British history. Why do you think the Prime Minister couldn't work that out until yesterday?
Bluntly, I think my toddler could do a better job at running this country. I really do.
The one that's just been born.
Yeah, all three of them put together.
Yeah.
I think he's crumbling under pressure, and rightly so. You know, many people have lost their lives over this. I hope that they do crumble under pressure, but I also know that they're going to be anxiety riddled, because I believe strongly they know that the corruption and the failings and everything has to come out. And I think that's why 6 months ago they were still trying to keep it quiet, and now they've been left no choice.
You're so right. I think they were trying to keep a lid on it because, of course, where most of the rape gangs were operating, they were Labour local councils, Labour administrations. Also, from 2008 until 2013, the Director of Public Prosecutions was one Mr. Keir Starmer. And in that period of time, I don't believe a single rape gang member was arrested, convicted or prosecuted. So he's got questions to answer as well. So I think they thought they could throw a lid on it, shut it all up. But the pressure is too much. Now that we're getting an inquiry, and I think we should at least say that is a good thing. I mean, better than late than never, I guess. What would you like to see out of it? Because the Baroness Casey appears to have recommended that we get the police out and we start finding more of these rape gang members and convict them and prosecute them, to get the ones that are still operating. That's very important. So I'm all for that. But as far as I can work out, I could be being unfair to her because I've only had a quick slip through. There's not so much of a stringent call to arrest, find, prosecute, convict those who turned their backs. The police chiefs, the social workers, the teachers, the local politicians, who, when people like you, young girls like you, were saying we're being sexually abused and tortured, all turned round and said, well, you know, we don't really want to know about this because if we take up your case, everyone will think we're racists and Islamophobic. That's what worries me about what may happen now. Would you like to see a priority being given to the tracking down and the prosecution of the people who ignored victims like you?
Absolutely. I feel like accountability needs to be taken on all sides. I feel like people need to be thoroughly investigated that have tried to shut it down. People that have failed young girls and boys need to be thoroughly investigated and held to account. I always say, would it be the same if it was a police officer's child? Would it be the same if it was a social worker's child? Because I guarantee they wouldn't shut it down as quick as what they do if it's a normal working class person off the street. I strongly believe that it needs to be prioritised. I'm happy that the inquiry is now coming out because, thankfully, with a bit of luck, many more people are going to be safe. The country might have a bit of a weight lifted off its shoulders, but I do believe that more needs to be put in place. People don't want to talk about it because it's an uncomfortable topic. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you have to be uncomfortable to get it out there. Schools, people should be going into schools and saying what to look out for. They should be going around and educating the police forces and children's services because clearly they need it. They need to be up to date with what grooming gangs actually consist of, what they do, what the tactics are, and where you're going to find them.
Absolutely, Ellie, really well said. You put the case fantastically. Well, let's just close on perhaps a little lighter note. What kind of a new baby is it? Is it a boy or a girl?
So I've got a little boy and then I've got two girls.
Okay. So is this the new one is a little boy?
Little girl.
A little girl. Okay, what's her name?
I've not given a name out.
You haven't got a name yet, OK. And keeping you up?
Yeah, she's actually great. We're quite lucky. We've got good kids.
Yeah, good. Listen, Ellie, we'll keep in touch. It's a pleasure to know you, and we'll get you on again. And thank you so much for your time, and all the best on the new addition to your family. Pleasure to talk to you.
You too, thank you.
That's the remarkable Ellie Reynolds, a victim of all of this, a survivor, a genuine survivor. Now, many who call themselves survivors aren't really survivors. They're still victims. Their lives shattered, ruined, unable to form romantic relationships, unable to think about sex with a boyfriend or anything like that, unable to marry, unable to go through life normally. That's what these rape gangs did to these poor young girls. Ellie is the exception that proves the rule. She's a remarkable young lady who's determined not to be ruined by this, and as you heard, has rebuilt her life, but still bears the scars. That's what this is all about. So let me know what you think. 03444991000. Why did it take Keir Starmer so long to realise what we all knew years ago? Never mind about January, when he whipped the Labour Party into voting against a national inquiry. Disgusting scandal, that. Never mind about then. Years before that, we all knew. Why has he only just come round to this way of thinking, that we need a rape gang inquiry? Why didn't he think we needed one before? 250,000 victims crying for justice. He didn't think we needed an inquiry. Why? 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to talk about these Ballymena riots, what they really mean, and whether or not there may be more riots across Britain, because the cause of those riots is migration, the migrant crisis, the immigration problem. That's why they're rioting in Ballymena, and that's why they rioted all across the country last summer. Nigel Farage warns that he thinks we're going to have another summer of discontent because the government doesn't do anything about that. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned.
I think the boycott of those two ministers by the UK is unacceptable. Israel's a democracy, a liberal democracy, fighting for security and fighting for the security of the world.
They've said some very unpleasant things, have they not?
They have. They've said idiotic, stupid things, and I'm on opposition. I do not think they're wonderful ministers by any stretch of imagination. So what? Even politicians have the right to say stupid things, but you don't boycott them for that. You don't boycott them. You don't boycott your own allies.
The idea that she was going to come back and be, you know what, I'll be Starmer's whipping boy on this. Yeah. I'll be the woman that says we don't need an inquiry. And when it was so blindingly obvious that we did need an inquiry, just from the facts that were publicly available at the time. So this idea that she's suddenly uncovered some new mystery about the fact that hundreds of Pakistani origin men raped, drugged, abused thousands of British girls, that's not new information.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a little while, we'll take your calls, 03444991000. Basic question, what's wrong with our Prime Minister? Why did it take him so long to realise what everyone else knew years ago, that we needed a national public inquiry into the rape gang scandal? Why in January did he think we didn't need one? That it was actually, if you thought we needed one, you were some sort of far-right Nazi. Why did he think that? What's wrong with him? 03444991000. Now, the other thing that would be handy on the part of this Prime Minister would be if he would actually take note of what's going on in Ballymena right now. Fortunately, some of the worst of the rioting, of the unrest, seems to have died down after the last couple of nights. But 4 or 5 nights in a row, Ballymena just erupted. Furious rioting, the length and breadth of the town, running battles with the police, look at that, throwing firebombs, petrol bombs, really bad, really bad. The authorities, Michelle O'Neill, the Northern Ireland First Minister, the local police chief, basically saying far-right thugs, mindless violence. Not heard much from the Prime Minister about this. The truth is they're writing about the migrant crisis. They're writing about the fact that 2 14-year-old Romanian migrant kids, boys, were in court at the beginning of last week charged with the oral rape of a local girl. Sexual crimes committed by migrants in concerned communities are a recipe. That's a tinderbox, that is, and it exploded in Ballymena. Nigel Farage warns that because this government is just not listening to the reason for this unrest, there will be more of these riots across Britain throughout another summer of discontent. Let's talk to Stephen Walsh, migration expert, and he's director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. Stephen, welcome to the show. I'm right, aren't I? 5 days of really serious rioting in Ballymena. I didn't hear a single local politician or police chief, local dignitary, anyone acknowledge what these riots were about. They just kept saying mindless violence, far-right racists, racism, that's the only way to dress this up. Well, you can call it that if you like. But just like Southport last year, where they just tried to dismiss the reasons for the riots as just thuggery, people who like violence, people who are far right and like to destroy things, without addressing what was really going on. It was disquiet over the migrant crisis. Well, just like last year, they're doing it again in Ballymena. Nigel Farage, and he's not alone, warning that by not listening to the reasons for these riots, we are probably in for another summer of discontent, more riots. We've got to get our government, got to get people in power, the authorities, police chiefs, politicians, to acknowledge what this trouble is all about. If they don't, it's just going to get worse, right?
Well, Kevin, your analysis that it's going to get worse is absolutely right. And the analysis that you've made that the politicians in Northern Ireland, the police, the media, are all following the same stick that we've just had to deal with on your show a few moments ago, where you have the terrible abuse of girls up and down the country, and abuse as it was, based on the idea that it was all about immigration. We can't talk about it. Anyone who's opposed to the idea of mass immigration has got to be criticised. In the case of the girls, we'll ignore it because it can't possibly be Pakistani Muslim gangs who are doing this, and it will upset the community. Now we have the same arguments as you saw in Southport last year, where this is all about people being the far right. The same language our Prime Minister used when he suggested that we should not have a national inquiry about the grooming gangs. And that comes down to one thing. It is that they are frightened of the public, recognizing now that their policies of mass immigration have led to such division in this nation, increased levels of criminality, people getting benefits that are not entitled to benefits, including housing, as you saw in Ballymena, a small, tight-knit community of 30,000 people, and now they're experiencing what mass illegal migration and mass uncontrolled migration does on a small town.
Absolutely. And if you go all the way back to where summer rioting kind of became a national hobby back in 1981, the Brixton riots, to be fair, the police, the government, politicians immediately started looking into what the cause of these riots were. What caused these people to erupt in violence, into rioting, into fighting with the police? What is it that they're complaining about? Now, that is the way to approach a riot, as you analyse it, post-analyse it, post-mortem. What we do now, or this government's style, Keir Starmer's style, is, don't fancy looking into the reasons for this. Let's pretend it's utterly mindless, that in fact there's no reason for it. He actually, last summer, after Southport and the other riots, he kept going out of his way to say, this is not protest, these aren't protests. Well, we don't condone the form of the protests. Of course we don't condone the setting fire of asylum seeker hotels, mosques, running battles with the police, throwing bricks at them. Of course we condemn all that. But just because they're using these, or some of them are using these criminal methods to register their protest, it shouldn't be a reason for politicians to just say, right, well, they've been a bit violent, so let's not even listen to what the hell it is they're moaning about. That's a pressure cooker. That's like a volcano building up, building up. So the more that this government, Keir Starmer especially, refuses to address what the cause of Ballymena is, what the cause of Southport was, and what the cause of the future riots this summer that we all fear may happen will be, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, isn't it?
It is, and because they're purer, they're actually, insignificant in thinking. The very clear analysis on this is that you see people getting angry about the impacts of large-scale migration. And let's look at the Ballymena scenario in its case. If you heard some of the people being interviewed on social media, which is something that our Prime Minister, the government, the police, as you quite rightly identified, Kevin, don't wish to talk about. They've talked about the fact that large-scale numbers of migrants are coming up from Southern Ireland, the Republic, using the European Union's opportunity to cross the border into Northern Ireland and seek housing. And they're able to get housing beyond those people who've lived in those communities for long periods of time, because there is no law that stops somebody who lives locally being able to get preferential treatment. Secondly, they see that the people are getting benefits. They also understand very clearly that companies like Mears, who are receiving huge benefits from the government as the contracts for dealing with asylum seekers, also are going into Ballymena and asking the 2 or 3 large landowners that own most of the housing that we will take contracts for 5 years, thus increasing the cost of housing for those that are able to live in Ballymena. So there are legitimate things relating to housing costs, overcrowding, the implications of crime, that are genuine. And when people raised their heads and came out and not rioted, just complained about it, some people did, as you noted, took over this and caused riots. But the very fact that these people have got legitimate claims are being ignored by the police and the politicians, and that only leads to greater frustration. And as you say, and Nigel Farage has indicated, this could lead to more and more people becoming increasingly angry, and their only option is to go on the streets. And when they go on the streets, there are those within those crowds who seek to benefit from this by causing more violence. And that's why there might be more riots in the future. None of us want that. But if the government sticks their head in the ground, that's the obvious consequence of ignoring the will of the people.
Exactly right. It is a kind of ostrich-like approach to this. And as I say, this is just going to get worse as long as Keir Starmer refuses to even listen to what these people say. And we should remember, Stephen, it's really important to point this out. Those protests last summer, by definition, you know, the ones throwing the bricks, the ones trying to set fire to the hotels and the mosques, that's going to make the papers. That's dramatic footage, dramatic pictures. That will make the papers, that will make the news bulletins. We should remember that the vast majority of people who protested last summer against the migrant crisis and the results of the migrant crisis, the dilution of their local culture, towns and cities just not looking like they used to. They're just changing before our very eyes with this kind of cultural invasion. So the majority of people who protested last summer against this did so peacefully. And yet we have a Prime Minister that says that every single person who went out onto the streets to complain about the migrant crisis is a far-right thug. It's not good enough.
It's not. You heard today Yvette Cooper in her speech announcing the fact that there would be some form of kind of inquiry to look at, in her words, Pakistani grooming gangs that raped young girls. But then she made a very clear point. Not all Pakistani people or Asian people are actually those sorts of individuals. Yet we do not hear from her or the Prime Minister an acceptance that the vast majority of people protesting in Southport last year or in Ballymena are equally not the same as the thugs who are actually setting fire to it.
Exactly.
That kind of two-tier kind of concept is ingrained upon not only the politicians of the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats, but also the former Conservative Party, but across the establishment as a whole. And Kevin, I think also there's one other aspect that links Ballymena, Southport to the grooming gangs is the level of snobbery in this country. I'm all right, Jack, if I live in these really lovely areas of the country, but those poor working class people, they could be ignored because, of course, they don't work. They're lazy. They don't care about their communities in the same way that we do. And when they rise up, why are they not just doing as we tell them to do? And I think that level of snobbery just permeates the whole of our elites who just ignore these people and their wishes, as though their wishes don't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, the people who protest, who go out on the streets, they're just far-right thugs. And because they're throwing bricks, let's not even listen to what they're complaining about. It is, as I say, this is a powder keg. And the more Starmer and his gang don't listen, just like they didn't listen about the need for a rape gang inquiry, the more that powder keg is likely to explode. I don't say that with any relish, but we are not the only ones, Stephen, who are a bit worried about the summer ahead. In the meantime, though, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Stephen Wolfe, the migration expert, former MEP, of course, and director for the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. Well, look, we've got a break now. We'll take a quick call and then we're going to talk about Israel and Iran and what's going on there, the Middle East. I like the way they keep saying it looks as if they could be approaching war. Well, they've been bombing the hell out of each other for about 5 days. What does war look like if it doesn't look like what we've already been seeing? I think they are at war. We need to talk about that. We'll do that in a little while, but your call's next. Stick around.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's take a quick call. Let's go to Liverpool, talk to Paul. Hi, Paul. What would you like to say?
Yeah, hi, Kev. Just about the Ballymena and all the problems and so on. You know, in the 90s and the noughties and so on, there was no real racism in this country, Kev. There's obviously a few idiots here and there, but in general, people got along and it was fine. And it really was fine, you know. And I'm looking at some of them Ballymena, you know, online, all the few comments and it's heavy. It's racism on a massive degree, but you can't blame them the way what's been going on. You know, the immigrants and they've been basically. You know,
I mean, I think, Paul, that some of them, shall we say, don't frame their arguments in the most respectable and acceptable of ways.
There's no doubt.
But they're angry. They're angry.
But the point is, Kev, is that it's the government's fault. The government
correct.
Created people and turned them into racists because those people were not racist before this.
I don't think they're racist now. I just think they're frustrated with the number of migrants that are being imposed on them, the number of asylum seekers that are suddenly arriving in communities, unsuspecting communities, and they see what goes on. Often the migrants, shall we say, aren't that well behaved. Then they start committing crimes, and when they commit sexual crimes, that is a recipe for disaster. And the local people, they have a tendency, shall we say, sometimes to not frame or phrase their fury in a sort of nice middle class kind of a way.
The words they're using are
they're not nice. I agree.
They're angry, you know, and you can understand because you know I've seen the videos of Dublin there, and it's like, wow, is that Dublin? What, really?
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
But they shouldn't. But they just because they use socially unacceptable language, and which I suppose somebody goes, oh, it's racist and all that. There's a reason for this, and people should, our politicians, our government should be looking at the reasons, not just dismissing these people as racists. It's not good enough.
No, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. That's why I phoned up because I don't believe they are.
I agree with you. That's what I agree with you.
But there's a reason because the government it's the government's fault here. The governments have created this.
They have.
And the people are going mad, and they're saying stuff that they don't even mean, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they're just trying to say what are all these foreigners doing in our community. They don't like that in the first place. When those foreigners start committing crimes, particularly sexual crimes, it tends to be something of an explosive situation. And that's what's going on in Ballymena. And I fear it will go on in other towns and cities around the United Kingdom over the coming summer of discontent. Paul, got to move on, but good to talk to you as always. Thanks for the call. Paul in Liverpool there. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to check in on the Middle East, see what's going on in Iran and Israel. That next, stay tuned.
those accountable, those responsible rather, for covering up these disgusting crimes simply because the perpetrators were mainly of Pakistani origin. They covered it up for that reason, and those people who covered this up, senior police officers in some cases, local council leaders, leaders of social services, they should be prosecuted and imprisoned for deliberately covering up these disgusting crimes because they cared more about so-called race or community relations than they did about protecting.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, the death toll is rising alarmingly in the Middle East. At least 24 Israeli civilians, maybe 14 to 24, it says here, civilians reportedly killed in the Iranian bombing attacks, missile attacks on Israel. And of course over in Iran, where Israel started to attack last Friday, there may be as many as 406 fatalities and rising. Before we go up to our next guest, today's attacks were strategic targeting, and one of the sources of disquiet that Israel wanted to take out were the broadcasting units in Iran. And this is the attack, or this is what happened when when Israel attacked the Ayatollah's mouthpiece channel, I think it's the Iranian Independent Broadcasting Channel. So here is what happened.
که شنیدید صدای متجاوز به خاک وطن، صدای متجاوز به صدای حق و حقیقت است. آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلوده استودیو
That's a propaganda TV channel that Israel, as you saw, dramatically took out. That screeching presenter suddenly losing a lot of her resolve and getting the hell out of the studio. Let's talk to our next guest. He's the Israeli legal scholar over there in Israel, Eugene Kantorovich. Eugene, thank you for joining us. First of all, do you believe, as I do, that the Western world, the Western leaders, all jaw-jawing in Canada at the moment, all calling for a de-escalation and negotiations, do you believe that we all owe Benjamin Netanyahu a debt of gratitude for having the guts and the resolve to do what so many Western leaders don't have the guts to do, and that is take out Iran and potentially, I think we're getting hopefully close to that, destroy the Mad Mullah's tyrannical regime?
I think Benjamin Netanyahu and the state of Israel deserve the Nobel Peace Prize because Iran is a threat to the entire West. We see, the G7, they're not big fans of Israel, but even they, at least verbally, supported paid lip service to Israel's actions because they understand that Iran with a nuclear bomb will have all of Europe under its thumb, will have the entire world under its thumb. And Israel, small little Israel with 10 million people, 8 million Jews, is taking on this regional hegemon on behalf of the whole world without any thanks and without any help, really. So it's truly an extraordinary story, and it's something that all the Middle East experts said was impossible. And Israel is doing it better than anyone could have imagined. I think they're all secretly popping champagne there in Alberta.
Well, a lot of people say that Benjamin Netanyahu has a lot of faults. That may or may not be true. I don't know. But I know this. We need to say thank you to Benjamin Netanyahu and to Israel for what they're doing now, taking out this awful regime, the Iranian regime that poses a terrible threat to the rest of the world. Thank God this is happening now. Eugene, tell me what you make of this, because it's quite alarming to some of us in Britain. Quite a few of us, in fact. And that is that in the build-up to these astonishing attacks last week, the circle of intelligence, as it were, whatever Donald Trump says, we know that he knew about this. And it's quite right that he would know about this. Normally, Britain would have known about it. But guess what? These raids came as a complete surprise to Keir Starmer and David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, because Israel no longer trusts Britain due to its palpable attitude, its anti-Israel attitudes. What do you make of that? I mean, I think that's a really disturbing development.
It's a terrible development because Britain, of course, has had such a long history in the Middle East and has been such a close part of the transatlantic alliance, a crucial partner of America. Britain and Israel have been America's two closest allies. And we see that Israel is emerging as the special ally. And I think it's because of the policies of this government in London. If we recall, in the lead up to Israel's amazing attacks on the Mullah regime, what was Keir Starmer's government doing? Sanctioning Israeli government ministers.
I know.
How can you share intelligence with people who are putting your government ministers, your police minister and your finance minister, on a blacklist and freezing their bank accounts in London? You're not going to share intelligence with such a government. And it suggests that this government is seen as being so enthralled to Islamist progressivism that they simply can't be trusted. And I think that's bad for Britain because you want to be on the winning side. And Israel is winning for democracy. Israel is clearly going to be the major power in the Middle East. When you see Saudi Arabia, when you see Syria and Jordan opening up their airspace to Israel and say, come, use our airspace to shoot down the missiles before they get to, it's crazy to say that we live in a world where the Damascus government is providing Israel with more help than the London government.
Yeah, and Israel now saying that it has total command of the skies over Tehran, which is extraordinary. We haven't got too long, Eugene, but where are we heading now? I mean, how much more bombing from Israel, on Israel's part, do you think there will be? Netanyahu said there will be at least days of it. Now that Iran's raining bombs down on Tel Aviv and other Israeli cities, presumably there will be reciprocal raids. I mean, will this go on for days, weeks? What do you anticipate?
I think Prime Minister Netanyahu quite clearly said that they have at least a couple weeks of primary targets. And just now, Israel has only now gotten into the position to start accomplishing what it really came for. Right? So far, it's taken out the air defenses, it's taken out increasing amounts of the missiles. That now gives it the opportunity to really dig in to the nuclear facilities, which is what this is really all about. So having achieved air superiority, that's not a goal in itself. That's a method now to begin picking apart Iran's nuclear program. And that could take time. That could take weeks. And Israel has time because even though each Iranian attack, which only kills civilians, right, Iran's ratio of military to civilian casualties that it has caused is 0 to 24. They have not killed a single military person, only civilians. But you don't win a war by killing grannies in their sleep. And Israel is attacking strategic targets.
Yeah.
And now it will basically pick apart Iran's nuclear regime and must be given the adequate time to do so.
Okay. Eugene, I'm going to have to cut you off. We'll get you on again soon. We need to talk more. That's Eugene Kantorovich, Israeli legal scholar, over there in Israel. When we come back, Lady C on the Royals. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In 25 minutes or so, I'll be taking your calls. 03444 991 why suddenly is the Labour Party all over the public inquiry into the rape gang scandal? People who previously said no need for this, no need for a national inquiry, no need for a local inquiry, not at all, not suddenly. They're all over it. You know, they can't get enough of it. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, standing up saying, oh, people have been let down, we've got to leave no stone unturned. Well, 6 months ago, they said, no, we don't need any of this. So what is going on here? Why have they suddenly had this sort of dramatic conversion? And don't tell me it's Baroness Casey's review, because there's nothing in that we didn't really know. I mean, it's a necessary review. I'm not denigrating Baroness Casey's work at all, but it is merely 190 pages of what we already knew. Why didn't the government, why didn't Keir Starmer, why didn't Yvette Cooper or Lisa Nandy or Jess Phillips, why didn't any of these people feel that we needed any kind of public inquiry 6 months ago in January? Why? 03444 991 and why won't the government, why won't Keir Starmer and his gang listen to the rioters in Ballymena? Listen to what the people are saying. They're angry about the migrant crisis. They feel unknown foreigners are being imposed on them in their thousands, and they don't like it. Why won't the government listen to that? Why does the government just dismiss concerns like that as racism, far right? It's not good enough, folks. What do you think? 03444 991 and where do you think we're heading in the Middle East? Because Israel and Iran are going at it hammer and tongs right now. This is full-out war, whatever they say. So let me know, where are we heading there? 03444 991 Can Israel successfully defenestrate the mad mullahs, the Ayatollah's awful tyrannical regime. We hear that 70% of people in Iran can't wait to see the back of this horrible old Ayatollah, who, by the way, is militarily illiterate, notoriously bad at military matters. So don't hold out much hope for Iran's war against Israel. I suspect they might lose. Will it, though? Will it destroy the Ayatollah's regime? Can Israel do that? 03444991000. Before we get to you, though, before we get to any of that, it is time to talk Meghan, it's time to talk Harry, it's time to talk the royals. And special guest tonight is, of course, the inimitable royal commentator, Lady C. Lady C, welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Now, the first thing I'd like to ask you was, we saw over the weekend, I think, an epic, even by Meghan's standards, an epic feat of hypocrisy. You know, showing the kids and going, oh, it's Father's Day. Look, Harry, here's your little kids. You're a father. Here's your kids. It's lovely. Father's Day. There they are. Father's Day. What about her father, who she hasn't spoken to for, what is it now, 5 years? 6 years, whatever it is. He hasn't spoken to her. I'm trying to work this out. No, it's 7 years. 7 years. Hasn't spoken to Thomas Markle Sr. for 7 years. What about Harry's father, King Charles, who no longer speaks to him because of his appalling behaviour, because of the appalling betrayals he's visited upon the royal family over the last 7 years or so of behaving appallingly. So there they are. There's Meghan posting all this to celebrate, all these lovely pictures of Harry with his kids and all that, you know, to celebrate Father's Day, and yet both of them aren't speaking to their own fathers. And Meghan sort of divorced her own dad 7 years ago because he did some silly pictures for the press. So what the hell does Meghan really know about a father's love?
Well, Kevin, may I say, first of all, Harry would be happy to speak to his father if his father would speak to him. Let's remember that. So Charles is the one who will not speak to Harry because he knows that Harry is somebody he can't afford to speak to. But as for Meghan and poor Thomas Markle Sr., I mean, I think he's a real King Lear character. She has, and you know, the truth is, she, according to Thomas Markle, he told me that he believes that she set up that whole Jeff Rayner,
the photographer, the paparazzi photographer, yeah.
That she set it up with him so that she would have an excuse to prevent her father from coming to the wedding. That's what he told me.
Thomas Markle Jr., you mean, or the father himself. Thomas Markle Sr. told you that, yeah? That's interesting.
And also, Samantha, Meghan's sister, was the liaison because Jeff Rayner approached her, and she's the one who talked her father into it, not realizing that Jeff Rayner had a close working relationship with Meghan and still has a working relationship with Meghan. Jeff Rayner got a credit on the Netflix show for his cooperation. So the reality is that Meghan has nothing to complain about her father. She set him up. And she set him up because she was quite determined that he was not going to come to the wedding. And if he came, he was going to be quickly in and quickly out. And if she managed to do things right, he would be sufficiently threatened and intimidated into either not coming or getting ill. And of course, he got ill and then couldn't come. So I think the way she has behaved is absolutely appalling if you stop to think that a few months before she met Harry, she was busy singing Thomas Markle Sr.'s praises and had systematically sung them for the 36 years of her life. And what did he do that was so terrible? He never trashed her. He never abused her. He's never said anything nasty about her. He's hidden a lot of her secrets, which I happen to know as a fact. He has been extremely loyal to her, even in this falling out period, where she set him up with People magazine. She orchestrated with 5 friends of hers to leak the contents of the letter which the Queen and Prince Charles told her she had to write to mend fences with her father. And she deliberately wrote it and has admitted deliberately writing it, not to reconcile with him, but to create a permanent breach.
I'm just going to put the audience fully in the picture here. This Jeff Rayner is, folks, is a British paparazzi photographer in California who has a relationship with Thomas Markle and, as Lady C says, also Meghan Markle. Thomas Markle did live in Mexico. Jeff went down there and persuaded him, for better or for worse, to pose for these pictures, being measured for a suit to wear to the wedding. These were subsequently published in the American tabloids, and Meghan at that point sort of cut her dad off. Lady C and Jeff Rayner saying that actually that was Meghan's plan all along. I don't know what Meghan would say to this, but it's fascinating that you say it was a plan, because I've spoken often, Lady C, to Meghan's brother, Thomas Markle Jr., and Thomas Markle Jr. says, well, me, my sister, my dad, we think we've been cut out of the Meghan picture for snobbish reasons, that we don't fit into her image of herself as a royal duchess who moves in the highest of circles. They're a decent, plain American family, a normal American family. And Thomas thinks that it's snobbery that has made Meghan organise it so that they never got to meet the king, or in the old days, her late majesty, the new queen, the royal family. It is an almost ridiculous situation, Lady C, that here we are, 7 years since they got married, 2018, and Thomas Markle Sr., Meghan's dad, has not spoken to her since those pictures we just talked about, and has never met any of his grandchildren, and has never met Harry. It's almost perverse, isn't it? It's weird.
It is perverse, but Meghan had a very good reason for making sure that her family never really got close to the royals or to anybody in that crowd, because Meghan has told Harry so many inventions, that she was Boadicea, and she was working at the age of 8 months to put herself through kindergarten, then college, and then etc. All rubbish. And she knew that her father, who is, I'm sure you've met or spoken to her father, and he's a very forthcoming, very decent, very sort of regular sort of person. There's no side to him. He doesn't lie, he doesn't cheat, he doesn't deceive, and that was the problem, because if she had unleashed her father, her brother, and her sister in the royal circle, people would have said, oh, isn't it wonderful, and your sister or your daughter or your sister has done so well, and isn't it wonderful that she was waiting on tables? And they'd have said, what tables was she waiting on? She was put through university, she was put through private school by my father or by me, if it was Thomas Markle Sr. speaking. So she had to keep a barrier between the royal family and her family. Otherwise, they would have spilt the beans. But in the act of creating the barrier, the beans have been spilled nevertheless, because people like me have spilled the beans. And she has been exposed. But her, I think, initial thing was to avoid being exposed. She thought that if she kept the two parties apart, she would be able to maintain the fiction, which Harry is the only person who still seems to believe any of the rubbish that she told.
Yeah, I think you're right. She has an audience of one, and that's Harry. The rest of us are very suspicious about pretty much everything she says or ever does. Let's talk about their staffing situation, if we can. We all know about the Sussex Survivors Club. They've had a turnaround of something like 25, 26 staff since they came to America, since they ran away from Britain and set up home in California. As I say, all the people who got fired or quit call themselves the Sussex Survivors Club. There have been stories of some of them having to go for therapy. They were so traumatised by working for Meghan, about whom many stories, bullying stories, have been written about. Now, Lady C, last couple of days, this story emerged on Friday into Saturday, 6 more staff have been dismissed, most of them from the communications team, the public relations team, because apparently Meghan and Harry blame them for the bad press they've been getting. Meghan apparently particularly furious over the 8,000-word investigation in Vanity Fair magazine, which pretty much nailed her as an atrocious bullier of her staff. We hear stories of her being what they called a tyrant in high heels, prone to tantrums at 5 a.m, reducing grown men to tears, and so on and so forth. 8,000 words in the Vanity Fair magazine, one of the great magazines of America. Prior to that, the Hollywood Reporter publication in Los Angeles published a similar report, the stories of 11 former employees telling of how horrific it was working for this woman. Now, and all the other bad press they get, well, they blame their publicity team for this. Well, you know, it's all very well to say, well, you know, it's my communications people. They've done a bad job of making my image. Well, it's all very well to say that, but Meghan and Harry have given them nothing to work with. The reason they get bad press is this: their own appalling behaviour. No amount of polishing by a publicity team can do anything about the way these two have behaved. So they're shooting the messenger. They're firing 6 staff, saying, you're bad PRs, you're not very good at communications. But they will find that unless they improve their behaviour, they're going to continue getting bad press, right?
Well, I couldn't agree more. But I understand that the firings have also been very convenient, because Netflix was paying a lot of the staff, and Netflix has turned off that tap. So, of course, Meghan never ever admits that something is responsible for something else. It's always someone else's fault, and, you know, she's never going to admit that they need to be rationalizing financially and cutting back. So they have to come up with a valid excuse to get rid of perfectly competent people. But the fact of the matter is, Vanity Fair and the Hollywood Reporters both did investigations, and then their communications team was presented with the results of those investigations, which would have had the same results irrespective of who was running the communications team. So right there, it doesn't actually make sense. I mean, it's a great way of buck passing and blaming someone else. It's also a very effective way of, instead of saying, well, we need to reduce our expenses because we are suffering from financial problems. They're pretending that they have no financial problems, and that rather than suffering from financial problems, they're cutting away deadwood, and they're getting rid of inadequate staff. So they're actually not only gaslighting us, they are actually on some level abusing people who have given them good work, if you think of it like that. And what have they replaced them with? They have replaced them with the Rottweilers, one of the PR firms that's well known to not only be a Rottweiler, but a sleazy Rottweiler. And so it really looks as if Meghan has found her own level.
Yeah, let's get that right. Let's get that right. The new company they've hired are the company, and they call themselves disruptors, publicity disruptors. They are the company that encouraged Meghan to post that recent twerking video. So the way Meghan sees it is that got 42 million views. Therefore, it must be a success. Well, I think most of the people who looked at that twerking video were appalled. So, yes, you're guaranteed to get a lot of views. A lot of people are going to tune in and watch it. You know, pregnant Meghan dancing around like some moronic teenager with Harry doing the same. You're bound to get a huge audience. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing.
No, it doesn't. And how is she going to top this now? Is she going to go the full Kim Kardashian? You know, a Brazilian view of her Grand Canyon? I mean, is that what's coming next?
Well, I don't know what to say about that.
Well, that will get at least 50 million views.
Yeah, the 50 million, about 500 million, I would have thought. But
where would she go after that? And where is she going after this?
That's the point, isn't it, Lady C? Where does she go after this? And you're right, by the way. Let's just conclude by talking about this for a second, if we can. You're right. I agree with you. I think that the story about this too now, Harry and Meghan, it's financial. Now, they're not paupers. Harry's not a pauper, but they are millionaires, if you like, trying to lead a billionaire's lifestyle. They can't afford, in my view, their current lifestyle. They've lost the Netflix contract. As ever, her Scam Jam company, I don't think that's making any money. She's not going to be doing any more television. So all in all, not much happening in her world going forward. God knows what the hell it is he's doing. He's talked about some commercial venture to be revealed later in the year or in the spring, but nothing yet. So I think that they're flailing around, trying to find a source of income because they desperately need one.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And they are going from horror to horror. You know, I'm Jamaican, and I have heard from very humble black Jamaicans how horrified they are that some people are justifying that twerking video on the grounds that this is what black Americans do. I haven't spoken to black Americans about it, but I've spoken to black Jamaicans about it. And they say no decent black American would behave like that. One of the people said to me, she's like a boogie yaga. In Jamaican, the Jamaican vernacular, a boogie yaga would be like low-class trash. And another person said to me, she's no better than a butu. And a butu is, again, like low-class trash. And this is the opinion of ordinary black people in Jamaica. And they resent the fact that some of her supporters have been saying, well, this is the way black Americans behave. It's not the way black Americans
No, I totally agree with that. That's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous thing to say. It just struck me as low rent, and everybody on this side of the Atlantic in Britain, we just go, well, that is vulgar and, you know, down market. And her people tried to put out, yeah, well, everybody in America loved it. Well, that's not true either. People in America greeted this twerking video the same as we did, with a kind of mounting sense of horror. That this was it. They'd really plumbed the depth here. So we can only imagine what's going to happen going forward, and hopefully I can talk to you about it in the future, Lady C, because it's always a tremendous pleasure to talk to you, a unique pleasure. We'll talk again soon. Thank you so much. Well, the one and only Lady C there, obviously saying what she thinks. It's up to you whether or not you accept that, but some of it very interesting, I think. Well, all of it very interesting, so let me know what you think. 03444 991 1000. Let's go to break now. When we come back, I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but we'll look them up. We'll read some of your messages and, most importantly, take your calls. So we'll be talking next. It's good to talk on Talk. You can still get your calls in at 03444 991 1000. Back in a mo.
These perverse scientists are working on developing nuclear weapons to destroy the Jewish state and, for that matter, the rest of the world, because Iran, that have intercontinental ballistic missiles, plus nuclear warheads. Right now, enough uranium for 10 nuclear warheads is a menace not only for Israel, but for the whole world. And I think Israel's doing the very thankless job of fighting Iran on this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Before we go to the messages and the phone calls, let's do a WhatsApp voice note. This is from Steve on the end of Britain as we know it. Take it away, Steve.
Evening, Kev. Right, just heard you a minute ago talking about the Turkish barbers and all that. Well, around my way, I've got dozens of phone repair shops, computer repair shops, etc. Right, a little while ago, my phone broke. My screen wasn't working, so I thought, well, what I'll do, I'll go and go down one of these shops. I went in, about 5 or 6 of them. Every one of them had the same answer, right? I can't fix this. It's because of the make and model that you've got. We can't do it. We can't do it. Every shop said the same. In the end, I had to go and buy a new phone from Curry's. So make of that what you will. You know what I mean? Phone shop that can't repair a screen.
I think you're right, Stephen. You try getting a haircut in one of these Turkish barbers shops. I read about somebody who went in and demanded a haircut and ended up with the worst haircut they've ever had in their lives. These people in the Turkish barber shops, they don't know one end of a pair of scissors from the other. So what are they doing, these shops? And you know, one of those other ones, the American candy shops and the phone repair. What are they doing? What are they a front for? Because they're not barbers' shops, I'll tell you that. 03444 991 1000. Let's go to the phones now. Let's talk to a friend of the show, Mark in Lincolnshire. Hi, Mark.
Hi there, Kev, mate. You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Grooming gangs, what would you like to say?
Grooming gangs. Before I do say that, you just on about Turkish barbers. I did get my hair cut in one of those ones.
Oh, did you? How did it go?
Yeah. It was about 5-6 years ago. Yeah, it wasn't the best haircut I've ever had.
Still recovering.
Put it like this, I've cut my own hair now.
Yeah. Well, you'll know more about it than those Turkish barbers. What are those shops really? They're not barber shops, I'll tell you that. Anyway, let's talk about grooming gangs. What would you like to say, mate?
Yeah, it's just my impression of this thing, you know. I mean, yeah, it's great. They're doing it finally. I just feel like this is more of an exercise in the whitewash, you know. I can't help but feel that they're looking at this from an angle, if that makes sense. You know, I mean, you've got to think about as well, like the COVID inquiry. I mean, how's that worked out? I mean...
Yeah. Let's not go. Let's not wax lyrical too much about the efficacy, the brilliance of a national inquiry. Mostly, they achieve nothing. They achieve the spending of a great deal of money, the expenditure of a great deal of time, and that's about it. They cost zillions, and then they come back in about 10 years with some kind of conclusion that doesn't amount to a hill of beans. So you're right about that. But that said, I agree with what you said at in the first place, Mark. I mean, you know, having the Prime Minister calling for a national inquiry is better than what he was doing before this, when he was saying there was no need for a national inquiry. So we mustn't be too churlish. We're at a better point here. But why do you think it is that it took him 6 months to realise actually what most of us knew years ago, never mind about January? January, he was getting all of his MPs, he was whipping his MPs to vote against a Tory proposal for a national inquiry. Get out there and vote against it. Then he said, if you support the idea of a rape inquiry, then you must be far right. You're climbing on a far right bandwagon. He got all of his acolytes to go out there and say, no, we don't need this. This is just troublemakers. Lucy Powell calling it a dog whistle issue, and so on and so forth. So the question for me, Mark, is why suddenly have they had this Damascene conversion? They're big into it now, making a really big thing of it. I think it's this. I think that he's had a U-turn on this, a dramatic U-turn on this, just in the same way as he had a dramatic U-turn on the winter fuel allowance last week. I think that his image makers, his pollsters, his focus groups, his advisors are saying, two-tier, Keir, we are at breaking point. These policies, your lack of rape gang inquiry, are so catastrophically unpopular that you've got to do something about it. So he's trying to reverse the dial on all of these incredibly unpopular policies, axing the winter fuel allowance. Suddenly, they're not axing the winter fuel allowance. It's gone back to exactly what it was before they axed it. No need for a rape gang inquiry. Suddenly, massive need for a rape gang inquiry. It's because he's got tin ears, he's tone deaf, he can't hear the noise of the public, but some of his advisors can, and they're telling him if he doesn't do something about these catastrophically unpopular policies, he's toast. That's why he's doing this.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite right in what you're saying, Kev. I think as well, the other angle to think about with this as well is, you know, he does an inquiry now. It's not going to be done by 2029, so we can pass that off at the next election and say, well, look, I'll give you the rape inquiry. It remains to be seen exactly what it actually comes out with. As I say, I'm very sceptical, shall we say. And, I mean, the only other thing you can really say about it is he would have got away without doing a rape gang inquiry if it wasn't for those pesky far-right racists.
Far-right racists. Well, that's it. That's what a lot of people in Westminster are saying, and I think you can put a lot of store by it. It's this, that Starmer realised late in life that if he didn't allow a full inquiry into the rape gang scandal, the worst sex crime scandal in the history of this country, if he didn't allow a full inquiry, a public inquiry, it will be a massive stick for Reform UK to beat him over the head with forevermore. So he needs to, from now on, be able to say, I launched a public inquiry. So it's that old kick the can down the road. Every time I ask him a question, it'd be inappropriate to comment at the moment because of the inquiry. That's the reason he's called this. He says, oh, it's a question of decency. It's not. It's a question of political expediency. It's a question of pragmatism. That's why he's done it, in my view.
He'll probably do an inquiry for the illegal boat migrants, you know, so he can book that down the road.
Yeah, I mean, he may actually, in the end, do something about that. He may be forced to actually do something effective about the migrant crisis, but don't bet the farm on that anytime soon, Mark. Mark, good to talk to you. Thanks, mate. Always a pleasure. Mark in Lincolnshire. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your messages, and more of your WhatsApp voice notes. I can't offer you more than that. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go to WhatsApp voice notes. This is Andrew on the free driving lessons for asylum seekers.
You're talking about driving lessons for migrants. I'm a flight instructor, and I know at least 3 migrants who are taking flying lessons.
What? Hang on. I'm tempted to say, what just happened? Did he... I didn't know about that. That's Andrew. He's a flying instructor. He knows 3 asylum seekers who, on us, are receiving flying lessons. That is the British taxpayer paying for flying lessons for asylum seekers here in Britain. People who have broken into this country illegally. So I thought driving lessons were bad enough, but why not expand the remit? Yeah, maybe teach them how to sort of be a captain of a cargo ship as well, or something like that. Oh, we could really go places with this. Flying lessons. God, I give up. I just give up. I mean, we don't know the veracity of what Andrew said, but, you know, we all know that's almost certainly true, isn't it? Right. Right, while we digest that extraordinary piece of information, let's talk to Jason in Sheffield. Hi, Jason.
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. What would you like? You want to talk about the grooming gangs? What would you like to say?
Well, it has one fatal flaw.
The grooming gang inquiry?
Yeah, it has one fatal flaw. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, go on.
What it's saying is, we're coming after all of you.
Yeah.
They pretty much all have Pakistani passports, so we're all going to bugger off back to Pakistan. And we'll never get them back again to prosecute them.
Well, I mean, I think that's a slight mischaracterisation. I take your point, Jason. Those who can escape probably will, may well, or already have done. But most of these rapists, these gang members, they're Muslim men of Pakistani origin. So many of them are British. They're born here, but they're of sort of Pakistani culture. And that's where their family come from, so they're steeped in that. They're Muslim men of Pakistani origin, not necessarily all Pakistani citizens. Do you see what I mean? There's your problem there.
Yeah, well, no. The problem is they're probably dual citizenship.
Well, it's maybe, but maybe not. I mean, a lot of them went to jail. A lot of them are walking around, having never even been brought to justice. Many of them went to jail, came out, and they're just wandering around Rochdale as we speak. A lot of the victims say that they regularly see their persecutors, their rapists, walking around the town that they still live in.
The thing is, Kev, is that they've pre-warned them.
What do you mean pre-warned them? In what respect?
It says... Look.
Oh, you mean by announcing this? Yeah, but I mean, you know, they're saying that the police are going to go for them, they're going to find them. Well, yeah, this has been going on for over 20 years. Lots of them have never been...
That's what needs to be stamped out. Stop pre-warning them.
Yeah. Some of them have fled. Some of them have gone back to Pakistan. But a lot of them are British. There's your problem there. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a complicated situation, Jason, but they won't all be getting on planes and fleeing back to Karachi. I'll promise you that. So, interesting times ahead. Good call, Jason. Call me again, as you, I'm sure you will. Let's go back to WhatsApp voice notes. This is Lindsay on Keir Starmer.
All Starmer has done is bought himself some time to prepare his defence. He'll make sure that the report and the inquiry points the fingers at the police not handing over evidence, not recording evidence. This didn't get to the CPS, this didn't get to me as the chief prosecutor, it didn't pass my desk. The Conservatives had the open borders for 14 years, they were in control for 14 years, they haven't done anything. And it'll all be pointed at the same things, blaming everybody else while he's put himself in the clear.
I think it's a really good point, Lindsay. I think there's every potential that we'll go down the same road again, that all the people who should be arrested, prosecuted, convicted, all the people who turned their backs, top coppers, social workers, teachers, local politicians, that these poor girls went to and said, I'm being raped by a gang who keep giving me drugs, so are all my friends. Get away, we don't want to haul. If we go down that road, people could say we're Islamophobic or racist. Oh, no. There's every chance we'll go down that road again. It's the far-right racist syndrome. If you don't like what people are saying, dismiss them as far-right racists, like the Prime Minister likes to do. Let's go to the phones and let's talk to Sue in Staffordshire. She wants to talk about the Ballymena riots. Hi, Sue. What would you like to say?
Hi, right, Kevin. My point is, my friend lives in Ballymena.
Uh-huh.
and she was doing a live stream. I was on the for me to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get my head around when that policeman came on and said this was a racist attack.
Pure racism. That's what That's what they say. Pure, mindless racism. It isn't, Sue. It's not to be condoned. There's nothing. Nobody's.
I'm not condoning
But it's not pure racism. It's not mindless racism. There's a reason for it.
Oh, exactly. Now it was. I have no words for what that walk through Ballymena was. It was quite emotional. Now, this little girl's daddy, alleged little girl, of what's gone on, he is of mixed race.
Well, that's an interesting dynamic to it. I mean...
And he stood up in front of all those people and thanked them for coming out on a very quiet, peaceful protest.
Yeah.
And the problem is, now I never thought I'd ever see this in my lifetime. Twice now I have seen the Southern Irish and the Northern Irish coming together. The Protestant and the Catholics coming together. They're having the same problem down in the south.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. This isn't the old Protestant-Catholic divide.
No, it's not. They are.
This isn't the Troubles. It's very uncomfortable to see rioting in Northern Ireland because of the Troubles. This is a new kind of Troubles. This is because the people, whether they're Catholic or Protestant, are having imposed on them thousands and thousands of migrants from different cultures who can't speak English and who are committing crimes, and they don't like it.
No, and they don't want to get those two mixed together. I never thought I'd ever see that in my lifetime, and I never ever thought I would see Ireland trying to come together. I'll never forget what's gone on, but going back to that racist, I can't believe that police inspector stood there and said it was racist.
Well, that's what they did last year, Sue. That's what they did at Southport. This is just these are just far right, mindless, racist thugs. There's a pattern here. There's a pattern here. The authorities, politicians, including Keir Starmer, especially Keir Starmer, and top coppers, local authorities, they refuse to address the reason for all of this unrest. And the more they refuse to address the reasons, the more these riots will continue. That's the problem. If we have a political class that won't confront the truth, won't confront the reasons are going to get worse, and the results of the reasons are going to get worse. Sue, good phone call. Very good point. Call me again. Sue in Staffordshire there. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your messages, and more of your WhatsApp voice notes. Stick around.
If there has been a cover-up, as Dominic Cummings was alluding to there.
If there's been a cover-up.
Well, saying that, Dominic Cummings has made some fairly robust allegations there about civil servants.
Yeah. So you don't think Keir Starmer should apologise for saying people jumped on a far-right bandwagon?
The idea that she was going to come back and be, you know what, I'll be Starmer's whipping boy on this.
Yeah.
I'll be the woman that says we don't need an inquiry. And when it was so blindingly obvious that we did need an inquiry, just from the facts that were publicly available at the time. So this idea that she's suddenly uncovered some new mystery about the fact that hundreds of Pakistani origin men raped, drugged, abused thousands of British girls, that's not new information.
You can't try and snipe at the Conservatives for things that weren't our fault.
Oh, I mean, I haven't got time. So tell your big mate Donald Trump to tell his big mate Vladimir Putin to stop killing people, then we can solve that problem like that. Are you going to be in net?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Petri Huskin will be in just a little while to tell you what she's got lined up for you from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. into the small hours. So she'll be in a minute to let you in on her agenda for this evening. A couple of messages. Here is Chris Lee says, the whole world should be backing Israel. Iran with nukes are a danger to the whole world. They would literally fire off the nukes and take as many of the rest of the world with them as they could. A lot of people fear that. The thing about Iran developing a nuclear weapon is as soon as it's developed, they'd use the damn thing. Everybody knows that. That's why Israel has done the world a favour. The West should have done this already. Should never have let Iran get to this point where they're on the cusp of developing a nuclear bomb. Iran with a nuclear bomb would be a threat to the entire world. So well done, Israel, for ruining their nuclear capabilities. Here's one from Andrea. She says the Ballymena riots happened because this wasn't the first sexual assault. Allegedly, there were 2 other rapes. The other assault lit the powder keg. Well, I don't know about that, Andrea. But if what you're saying is true, hardly surprising there's so much unrest. But one sexual assault, one alleged rape will be enough. You bring these people into a community, you tell a community, right, we're putting 20,000 migrants in among you. Most people in Britain go, oh, blimey, a bit worried about that, but we're very accepting, generous people. Okay then. Let's see if we can make this work. Then, if any of those migrants commit crimes, particularly sexual crimes, the local community will not take it. They basically won't take it. So that is at the root of what's going on in Ballymena. And John in Sutton, my friend John in Sutton, says Hi Kev, the talk of regime change in Iran by Israel will make the Chinese communist regime very nervous. Expect trouble. Well, we certainly expect trouble. So far it looks as if Russia won't really do anything about it. Hopefully China won't either. I think Russia and China just think, well, Iran, bunch of cowboys anyway, let them go. But let's see. But I do know that regime change in Iran is a damn fine idea, and blowing out their nuclear capacity is an essential idea. It's been done now. Let's hope they keep with it. Quick WhatsApp voice note from Tristan.
This U-turn has to be the following for other U-turns. Considering Starmer follows wherever the wind goes, no matter what these U-turns he makes, he's still going to be hated, and he's still going to be absolutely deluded with everything he has done. He is still the most disgraceful Prime Minister we have ever had, and no matter what he does, no matter what he says, but if he makes more U-turns, farmers, and obviously with the winter fuel allowance, it's long overdue. It really, really is. Great show as usual, Kevin.
Thanks, Tristan. Let's hope he stages another one of his now trademark U-turns on the farmers' inheritance tax. It's almost as if he's now entering a phase where he's trying to repair all the damage he's done in the first 11 months of his catastrophic administration. They're going through all the policies that people absolutely hate and trying to mend the mess that they've made. You know, okay, it's better than not doing that, I suppose, but it's pretty pathetic to watch. This cowering, quivering Prime Minister has no idea about the people, no idea about what we want, what we desire, and just like thrashes around doing things we don't like, and then goes, I gather they don't like that winter fuel allowance thing. Oh, let's do a U-turn. Oh, they want a rape inquiry. Better give it to them. It's a sad sight, it really is. Incompetence is the big problem with this government. Let's go to Mark in Carlisle. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Kevin. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I got you.
Right. I don't want to. I'm sick of Keir Starmer saying that he was the first prosecutor to start the prosecution of the grooming gangs.
He didn't. He was there 2008 to 2013. As he was leaving office, when he was Mr. Keir Starmer, he recommended that there should be some investigations and arrests. So late in life, he picked up on it. But as I understand it, for the duration of his tenure as Director of Public Prosecutions, 2008 to 2013, there were no arrests and no convictions of rape gang members.
Well, you just stolen my thunder. That's what I was going to say. I'm not interested in what he did or what he said he did. I'm interested in what he didn't do. And on his watch, how many prosecutions were not pursued by the CPS because the police are now blaming the CPS for not doing that. You've got to find all the agencies are scrambling themselves to throw each other under the bus now to see who was at fault at that.
Yeah, and Baroness Casey's report, which calls for the police to get cracking, to find some more rape gangsters to stop this scourge, because it's still going on. I'm not sure how stringent it is or strident it is about calling for the arrest and the prosecution of the people who turned their backs. The police chiefs, the teachers, the social workers, who all said, we don't want to know about this, because if we investigate this, if we take these girls' complaints seriously, we might be accused of being racists, Islamophobic. And of course the Labour Party go, we could lose the Muslim vote on this one. It's very craven, Mark.
Well, you think about the ironicness of it. You're going to have this inquiry, which rely on the police to do the CPS in the first place.
Well, Mark, I don't know what's happened to your phone there, but the line went dead there, but we got your point. Mark in Carlisle. Let's quickly talk to Steve in Oxfordshire. Hello, Steve.
Good day, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Act of treason by the government I've got here.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll just explain the definition of treason.
Well, we know what treason is. Why has the government committed treason in your view?
Well, it's a betrayal of the sovereign state, right?
Yeah.
That means if you're a sovereign state, you have to have a border, which we have.
Yep. They've ignored our borders.
The duty of the government is to protect our borders.
Yeah.
Which is why in 1939 we did that.
Yeah.
And in fact, when we went to the Falklands, we did that. So I'm astounded that sensible people haven't brought that subject up before. Because you know what I'd like to do?
Yeah.
I'd like to find a very rich lawyer to sue Mr. Starmer.
It might be interesting. That's Sir Keir to you, Steve. But it might... No, Mr. Starmer will do. It might be interesting, but he's the Prime Minister. I don't suppose it will go anywhere. But a lot of people share your views that what's going on, the ignoring of our borders, is a kind of act of treason. Petri Hoskin is in the studio. Hi, Petri.
Hello there. Some people may think that it's an act of treason not to have recorded the grooming gang crimes due to ethnicity. It's never been... Do you know that it's not been done?
I know, and Yvette Cooper said, sorry about that, we're going to put that right.
I mean, this is just... it's not racist to be factual, right? It's not. And why are we treated like children by these governments all the time? Why are we never given information? Is it because they fear that we'll behave badly? And I suspect some people would. But if we were given truth and given information, I don't think we would. I think we would treat that information with respect. The more they lie to us, the worse.
The more they